Welcome to Our Stories Matter, We Will Dance Again. I'm Susie Hess, joined by my co-host, Mary Barr Halpern. This season, we're diving into the stories of Jews, Arabs, and Christians, stories of hope and resilience during times of war.
And we are excited to welcome Eric Rubin and Michael Sweetney, two remarkable individuals harnessing the transformative power of sport to combat antisemitism. Eric is a passionate advocate for Jewish inclusion, and Michael, a former NBA player and an ally, shows how sport creates a platform for dialogue, unity, and resilience.
Together, they discuss their efforts to break down barriers, challenge stereotypes, and inspire communities to stand against hate, fostering a culture of respect and solidarity, both on and off the court. Michael truly embodies allyship, where he's dismantling groupthink within the radicalization of hate, fostering open dialogue and encouraging empathy, which is so brave.
Very brave. And Susie, I thought that Project Max, which we'll talk about in this episode, is absolutely brilliant. I mean, the idea of taking something like sport that everyone can relate to and find passion about and to foster peace and dialogue is truly remarkable. And honestly, seeing so many known athletes standing for Israel and advocating for the hostages is just heartwarming and really gives me hope. So we hope you'll be inspired as you listen to both of them. Thank you both for being here today.
Thank you for having us.
Thanks for having us. Thank you.
Let's start with the first question. How do you both know each other?
It's actually, it's a great story because we were introduced by a dear friend of both of us, a gentleman named Tamir Goodman, who is originally from the Baltimore area, now resides in Jerusalem. Michael and Tamir played ball together years ago. I'll let you tell him about it. But Tamir is also involved with us with Project Max, another amazing humanitarian who loves to bring people together. And really, all of this came together because of Tamir. Michael, do you want to tell him a little bit about your relationship with Tamir?
Yeah, so pretty much Tamir Goodman's been my friend since high school back in 2000s when we met. We've been close friends ever since then. Pretty much, I met him at an All-Star game. He was the only Orthodox Jewish person there, and me being African American, I've never seen a Jewish person a day in my life. He's my first time ever meeting a person, but we instantly hit it off. And it's pretty much our dads raised us both the same way. Is just loving and respecting everyone, no matter the race, religion, and all that stuff. So it's pretty much you're raised with the same, values. And a lot of people didn't understand him, kind of treated him bad. For me, I didn't. I'll hug a tree and talk to a tree, but talks back to me. So that's the type of person I am. Sorry. We became friends that way. So when he put in a call and said, hey, you guys need Eric Rubin, you guys can have a contact and talk. And once me and Eric talked, we were on the same page right away about what we feel we need to do for the world.
Oh my gosh, that is an incredible story. So you and Tamir were friends, had nothing to do with October 7th. This was just, you were friends first.
Oh, we've been friends for 24 years now.
Wow. I love that story.
It's also kind of the perfect encapsulation of what Project Max, is all about. Michael raised, like he said to you, African-American, had never met a Jewish person, never mind an Orthodox Jew, but Michael took it upon himself to reach out to the one person there who didn't look and act like everybody else, right? And it's about bridging those cultural gaps and realizing that through sport, we could have a tremendous impact. And look what that little interaction between Michael and Tamir has done over the course of 24 years.
Incredible. And they say the conversation is like, you fear what you don't know. So the fact that you had the relationship before, October 7th, that you knew exactly what it was like to be Jewish from having like a good friend who was. So that says a lot actually in terms of what's happening today. And I'm wondering if we can sort of start from the beginning of if you both could talk about where you both were on October 7th.
I'll further. Eric's story is probably more powerful when it comes to that. Pretty much, I was here in DC. Here in New Jersey. When I first heard about it and found out, obviously came on the TV, and I know it was pretty much during Shabbat over there. I'm going to say could be wrong. I hope am I right, Eric? I think it was during Shabbat over there that time, and I remember talking to Coach Elliot Steinmetz kind of before everything happened. This is before he had shut down for Shabbat, and he was over there visiting during the holidays. When I found out on the news everything was happening, and I'm trying to call him. And he's not answering his phone. I'm panicking. I'm texting Tamir. I'm just trying to find people that I know over there, and nobody's really responding. So I'm in a real big panic. And luckily everybody responded to that they're okay. They're trying to get home and whatnot. But my heart just sank. Obviously I didn't know all the details on what was happening for sure because I'm not there. But what I'm seeing on the news. Because I'm cautious of what I see on the news. A lot of times they make Israel a bad place. But at that point, I knew it was a lot of bad things happening. I was wanting just my loved ones, people that actually everybody to be okay and be safe at that point. But obviously, still got a long way to go, I see. But that's where I was at.
Yeah, so I was living in Maryland at the time, and I'm a night person. So I was in bed, watching TV, and I still have the red alert. Even when I'm in the United States, I have the app on, and I started seeing some rocket attacks.
Can you explain what's the red alert? I don't know if people know what it is.
So yeah, sorry. So there's a couple of applications on the phone for people that live here in Israel that warns them of incoming rocket attacks, whether it be from Hezbollah in the north or Hamas or wherever they come, letting people know that rockets are coming and how long they have to get into their safe room or their bomb shelter. And so mine started going off. And, unfortunately, if you have a lot of friends in Israel, it's not uncommon for the alert to go off, but it'll usually go off, beep a couple of times. You'll hear a couple of rockets coming. And I also am in quite a few WhatsApp groups with my Israeli friends. I knew a lot quicker than, let's say, the news was reporting that this was bad. And so it was very difficult for me to get to sleep that night. Reports were still coming in. I got a little bit of sleep. And, another important part of the story for me and my wife was, this is October 7th. And my wife and I were planning on leaving to go to Israel with friends for vacation on October 12th. And we were actually planning on moving to Israel, and our flight was leaving October 30th. So, like Michael, I was, concerned about all my friends there, obviously the ones that are Shabbat observant and aren't using their phones, just a lot of panic because you don't know what's going on. And then you're getting information from those that are telling you how bad the situation was.
I think what's so powerful is also the fact that both of you, so far away physically from Israel, having the same panicking feeling of people in Israel, right? Like that idea of this is really a community trauma. And the community goes beyond just the Israeli people. It really, everyone who knew or know an Israeli or Jewish person, I feel like was really affected by October 7th.
Yeah, and I think the other thing, like Michael, mentioned, he mentioned that, he knew that Coach Steinmetz was over there. It didn't necessarily have to just be Israelis. We all have a lot of friends that go to Israel, especially around the holidays. And so they were just Israeli friends. They were American friends and family as well that were caught up in the situation.
Can both of you talk about your healing process since October 7th? Like the journey, what have you been doing?
I think for me, I think my healing process is trying to help others more than I can. Eric has been sending me videos he's been keeping me really updated on what's going on, who needs help, talking about the hostage family. So we've just been trying to pretty much showing our support as much as possible. And I think for me, that's my healing process, the way that we can help others. Obviously get the hostages home, make sure everybody's still safe. Obviously things are still not great there, still a lot going on. So just a lot of worry and just making sure that how can I put boots on the ground to help? Eric will tell you, I'm not a big social media person, so I don't do like a lot of posting, but me, I'm the type of person, I'm an action person. I want to just, how can I help? I'm not going to keep posting 20 messages and receive all the hate. That's not going to get me nowhere but frustrated, but what can I do straight up? I can just talk to a family, send a message. Like if I can do a basketball clinic or something to raise money, anything I can do to try to help out. I just want to be hands on it. That's my way of trying to heal him. But I can't even say healing because I just say more so just helping because I'm a giver. So that's what I wanted to do.
Yeah. And, I'm really grateful for Michael's friendship. But having been here on the ground with him, I know that the entire country of Israel and other people all around the world were very appreciative of him taking the time to come here in the middle of a war and show love and give back. And, I witnessed it, whether we were in a restaurant or on the beach or walking down the street or in the lobby of the hotel, the people that would come up to him and thank him and just want to give him a hug and let him know how much it meant, really meant a lot. For me, the healing process is still ongoing. I mentioned my wife and I were intending to move on October 30th. We actually did fly to Israel on October 12th. We became citizens here on October 15th, and we moved on October 30th. And so we were here spending time in our bomb shelter early on in Tel Aviv every day, sometimes once, sometimes twice, sometimes 3 times. And so it's an ongoing battle. You know, this is it's a resilient country, but it's clearly a country that's suffering from trauma and PTSD in lots of different forms. And I think probably what helps me heal the most is the fact that I've decided that I'm not going to let the conflict and the war and the trauma and the sadness affect the way I live or we live. So we go to the beach, we go out to dinner, we spend Shabbat at friends. Tomorrow we've rented a catamaran and we're going off the coast of Tel Aviv for a ride, and then we're going to hang out at the beach and we're going to have a barbecue. I think that in addition to rockets and other things, what I don't know how much people realize is that, Hamas, Hezbollah, Iran, they're all playing psychological warfare games with us. Well, we're going to attack you. When we're going to attack you? Oh, you don't know when it's going to come, and it's going to be big and it's going to be small, and you never know. We just can't let it get into our heads. And so we just continue living every day and trying to show them and the world that nothing's going to stop us from being here, that this is our homeland. And that's my healing, is when we get to celebrate whatever it is, whether it's, a wedding or a graduation from kindergarten or, a friend's birthday. We just continue to live. And I think that is the, greatest healing, and also in some ways the best revenge we can have.
Yes, I love that. And I've shared with Mary many times, and even on another episode, that when we were in Israel in March, one night we went out to dinner with her brother and some of his friends. And I was like, wow, like the restaurants are packed in Tel Aviv and people are living. And then I said to the guy who was sitting next to me, I said, this is like really amazing that people are still living life, because I'm not sure if that would be me. I would want that to be me. I'm not sure if that would be me or if I would be more like in fetal position somewhere. And he said, I mean, that's culturally, like, we have to keep moving. We have to keep living. We have children. We have to show them that you keep moving. So the cultural piece to me when I was there in March, I keep telling Mary, we have to return, because I sort of go back of what I'm experiencing in this country, right, with antisemitism on campuses, and then being in Israel and sort of having that solidarity feeling that I don't have here unless I'm on, these podcasts. And I'm wondering, Michael, I'm curious, what made you get involved as a non-Jewish person to become an ally?
I think I'm a people person. I think that's first and foremost. I'm a people person. But also too, I've been involved obviously I've been knowing Tamir for 24 years, but I've been involved since 2015, 16 inside the community, doing camps, visiting schools, like doing a lot of things. So I got a chance to really understand and know the people and really say like, wow, they're very misunderstood. And I was one of those people who went outside say, how can I get people to understand how good the Jewish community is, how good these people are? Like, they're not selfish, they're not mean people. Even when I went to Israel, how, me and Eric was walking down the street and I'm seeing so many Muslim people. Not Muslim, I'm sorry. Obviously, Muslims, but also, Ethiopian Jews. I'm like, what in the world is going on here? And I'm like, right, really mind about it. Eric is like laughing at me. Like, yeah, this is normal over here. So like, but people don't want to understand it. They don't even want to give it a chance. Like you say, and tell them, hey, I see X, Y, and Z. Oh, no, you didn't. It wasn't real. Like, okay. So it's one of those things you just try your best to try to, from my experience as a person, to try to help out. Say, hey, okay, if you're just saying, they're saying this, I'm a person who's a non-Jew, but this is what I'm seeing. This is how the community is. This is how they treat me. Just how they treat my family. They want to be a part of the world, but you guys got to accept them.
Well, what you're saying is so powerful. Also unpacking something you said before about the healing, because I have it in my mind, that the giving piece it sounds like it's so strong with you, like being able to give to others. And there's this, I think I told you that, Susie, as well before, like there's this word in Hebrew that's called Natan, and you spell it from front to back the same way. In English it's spelled Nattan. And it's about giving is also receiving. And I think what you're describing also with that sense of, I want people to be understood. I met this person and I didn't understand them, but now that I'm leaning in with curiosity, I get it. But that extra part is who you are, to bring other people in and to say it as well, which is amazing to me. It didn't just stop with, oh, I know this great Jewish person and I'm going to bring it to my family to know that they're misunderstood. It's like, no, let me see what I can do around the world to change people's opinions. I think that's remarkable, and not a lot of people would take on that task. Does it have any downsides?
Oh, of course. It's about the downsides because, like I just said before, there are a lot of people who just want to be stuck in a mode where they don't even want to hear the truth. Like, oh, they don't care about other people. Like, so there's so much non-truth. So the only thing I can do is, hey, this is my experience. But also, do I get backlash? Oh, when I went to Israel, my inbox is horrible. And I was like, person, I'll take it. I'll deal with it. As long as you don't bother my wife and kids, you can say whatever you want to me. But I just know, obviously, my friendship with the Jewish community. And also, too, more importantly, what God has me doing. I think that's most important. I know, this is something that my dad did. And then when I learned years ago, my dad, he worked at an Air Force base. He was in charge of like landscaping and things like that there. And when he was there, he would hire, if it's a Jewish person, Asian person, it was like predominantly black, but if anybody needed a job, needed help, a second chance, like he didn't care. He didn't care what was needed. He would just be there to help him. So I didn't realize until I learned, when somebody sent me a message about things that my father did for her father, I was like, wow. So now I kind of understand what my calling is, just to keep his legacy going, is how can I help other people and what can I do to let people know the truth? And so that's just who I am.
I love that. And you said something, everything you're saying is important, but something specifically is that you're entering with so much curiosity. And it sounds like that's probably who you were as a human being before. And then you're able to feel that, as you said, into action of how can I help? What can I do? And I've spoken to Miri that I've only, so far, I'm hoping there'll be more after this episode, in terms of allies, there's only been one person that entered conversation with me with curiosity versus it's going to be a debate. I'm going to fight you on, all of that stuff. But one person entered with curiosity. And I appreciate what you said so much, because you want to help. And just by going to Israel and having all the hate messages, it shows that people are just so stuck in that paradigm. Which obviously we're seeing has been very old and has been around for a long time. It's just out of the woodwork now. But I just appreciate you as a human being, just being curious.
You know what it reminds me, Eric? Remember when we did the antisemitism summit at Gillette with Eddie Carey? And Eddie was saying, I will not forget his sentence. He said that he was taught, his parents always told him, you have 2 ears and one mouth, so you can listen twice before you respond. I remember that stayed with me about that. First listen and be curious and don't just speak right away.
Yeah, and it's difficult in this world of social media, right? So technology has brought good. It's also brought bad, and there's a lot of misinformation. And we've unfortunately developed a generation where people don't ask questions as much as they believe what they see. And I think I also agree with you guys that Michael's curiosity is so important because it enables him to see for himself and form his own opinion. He doesn't have to listen to me. He doesn't have to listen to Tamir. He doesn't have to believe what he reads in the newspaper. He's able to observe and take it in. And look, this place, Israel's not perfect. No place is perfect. But it enabled him to hear what he had thought might have, been said by others and observe either differently or similar. And look, it's the greatest educational tool. And I think that's a good point. I'd like to, thank another organization, Athletes for Israel, who makes it their mission. They funded Michael's trip to come here because they do believe that the best way to learn is to actually go on the ground and see for yourselves and to either confirm what you believe or dispel the myths. And I don't think there's any greater tool than actually being here. So again, many thanks to Athletes for Israel for making Michael's trip happen, as well as Eddie Curry's trip for happening this past year.
Love it. Well, tell us more. So tell us about Athlete for Israel, Project Max. And I know that, every time you talk about sports and fighting hate, I'm like, tell me more. So tell us more about it.
Yeah. So Athletes for Israel and Project Max have very similar ideologies. I'd like to talk first a little bit about, Athletes for Israel, founded by a gentleman in New York named Daniel Posner, who is very passionate about Israel, but also is very passionate about combating not only anti-Semitism, but racism as well. Daniel and I are relatively close in age, and we remember, our families being involved in the civil rights movement and how closely aligned, back in the 60s, the African-American community and the Jewish communities were. I mean, after all, the NAACP was founded by Jews, and it wasn't uncommon to see rabbis, marching with Dr. Martin Luther King. And so Daniel created Athletes for Israel to bring professional athletes here that want to learn for themselves and see the truth and work hard to combat anti-Semitism and anti-Zionism. Now, Project Max isn't necessarily a pro-Israel or an Israeli organization. It's an organization that was created to combat racism, anti-Semitism, and intolerance through sports. And we believe that, professional athletes, as you guys know, especially today's world on social media, are looked up to by all demographics. But where I think it's most important is, personally, I don't believe people are born to hate. Hate is a trait that they learn from others, okay? And since our young children look up to professional athletes, if they hear athletes like Michael talking and telling the story about how he met Tamir and that led to a lifelong friendship, and that the color of your skin or your religion doesn't matter, then that's how we make a difference in their lives, and that's how we counter hatred. And so we speak about all kinds of hatred. Anti-Semitism has clearly been on the rise around the world. I'm very appreciative. Michael flew to Amsterdam with me a couple of months ago, and he spoke at a conference about the rise of anti-Semitism throughout Europe and what we can do and what athletes can do to combat that. Mary mentioned that we had Eddie Curry at a conference combating anti-Semitism at Gillette Stadium in Massachusetts. But also, it's also incumbent on all the athletes to stand up and speak whenever we see acts of racism or other sorts of intolerance. And I think a great example of that occurred, unfortunately, after the men's French national soccer team lost in the World Cup in Qatar to Argentina. And what happened right away is many people, and again, most of it on social media, the French team was all black on the pitch at one point. And so, of course, they were faced with racism. People were blaming the loss on the fact that these players were black. Now, never mind that this was the greatest football/soccer match in the history of the world, and there's always a winner and loser in sports. And so then we asked our Jewish and Israeli athletes to speak up against the racism that was countered. And it's only through us believing that all hatred and all racism is not acceptable is how we can, bridge the gaps and show our younger generation, our kids, that we can make the world a better place. And so Project Max has almost 30 athletes. Most of them are former NBA players. We have National Football League players. We have some Major League Baseball. We now have some professional football players from the United Kingdom. We have Israeli athletes. We're growing every day because I think all of our athletes are seeing the rise of hate, whether it's from the far left or the far right. And it's up to all of us to speak out to combat that hatred. So it's not necessarily an Israeli organization. And one of the programs that we started, I think, post October 10th, really started through our relationship with the Maccabi World Union, was a campaign called Sport Speaks Up. And this was a program where after all the hostages were taken and they didn't have a voice, we asked athletes if they would be willing to adopt a hostage. So to lend their voice and speak out on behalf of them. Not only did every single one of our athletes agree to do it, but some athletes that weren't part of Project Max. Michael adopted Or Levy when he was in Israel. He had an opportunity to meet with Or's brother, Michael Levy. And again, can't give, Michael enough credit, nor Athletes for Israel enough credit for helping make this happen. But we had a couple hour dinner with Michael Levy. And at the end of the dinner, I said to Michael, I don't know what you say to the brother of someone who's been held hostage for 300 plus days. And all I could think of was, Michael, I hope that tonight we were able to give you a little sense of normalcy, a little something that can take your mind off of everything. And his response was something like, Eric, this was the most enjoyable evening I've been able to have since October 7th. And I don't know if there's anything else that anyone could do for this family other than Michael taking the time to fly here and give his undivided attention and support to someone who's been suffering. And to me, this is not an issue of Israeli versus Palestinian or Jews versus Muslim. This is an issue about humanity. These are people that were at a music festival or were sleeping in their beds or going for a run that were attacked and taken hostage. So it really was a non-political conversation. It was, what if this was your family? And everyone, in particular, Michael was one of the earliest ones to answer the call to speak up. So, we've been spending a lot of time, when you asked about my healing process, part of my healing process is continuing to fight so that the world remembers, yes, not only the 8 American that are still being held hostage, but there's still 107 others being held hostage. As we tape this, it's 328 days. We're less than 6 weeks away from a year. And so we can't forget those that are still being held hostage, and we need to keep fighting for them. And every day more athletes join Project Max. They adopt a hostage, and until they all come home, we're not going to stop.
Super powerful. And I'm wondering, hearing that story, Mike, what was it like for you meeting the families of the hostages?
For me, obviously, Eric gave me a heads up that we were meeting with them before I came to Israel. So my person said, okay, cool, fine. Let's come looking forward to it. But when I got a chance to meet him and look into his eyes and you see the pain, it was tough. It was my first probably 15 minutes of the meal. I was trying not to cry. I was trying to think of things that make me laugh in my head. And I was just playing mind games myself because you see that pain. But then, like Eric said, by the time middle of the dinner, we're sitting and talking sports. We're laughing and joking. You could see the release because he probably has to every day think about wondering when his brother's coming home. He's probably doing interview after interview. So being reminded of it. So it was a night where we got a chance just to get his mind off of what's going on. Obviously you don't forget, but just get your mind off of it. Obviously when a person's going through something, last thing you want to keep doing. I remember when my wife's mom was living with her, she had stage 4 cancer. And every time somebody would come in, they would always talk about her cancer, And sometimes I would go in and just talk with her while she's like, Mike, I want to say thank you. I was like, well, for what? She's like, because yes, I know I have a problem, but yes, I want to be reminded about it and talk about it 24/7. So sometimes a little mixed up where I know you care about my situation, but just let's, talk about other things. So for us, just to talk basketball with him, have a good time, but also still address the situation was like Eric said, you can see the weight lifted off his shoulders a little bit. He can just kind of just breathe and just, okay, enjoy life a little bit. And I'll work, we'll deal with my brother's situation after dinner. So it was tough, obviously being, a husband and having kids and a wife. So it was one of those things that's his man's family and the unknown, person who's dealt with depression and anxiety. I can imagine his anxiety level right now. He's probably every minute looking at his phone, wanting to get a message saying if his brother's coming home or not, if he's alive or not. You don't even know. So that was a really, really powerful moment for me. Very powerful, I can say. It's just one of those things I've never experienced in my life. I experienced so much going overseas and traveling the world, but hearing that and dealing with that and seeing this man in his flesh was really, really powerful, but also important for me to see. And just obviously, and glad I can support him and at least give him a couple of hours, but just, praying that him and his family can have a good ending to that situation.
I'm thinking about what you just said, Michael, and Eric, what you said before about this is about humanity. We just had an immersive exhibition here of the Hamas tunnels to bring awareness to the hostages. And we kept getting backlash. This is political. I was like, no, this is about human beings. This is about people. And I think, Michael, what you're bringing to the table is able to just be human again and not just I'm the brother of, I'm the family of, I'm the families of the hostages. It's about bringing some normalcy, a glimpse of, oh, this is life. This is part of life, while acknowledging the pain and the sorrow and the trauma. And Eric, I think it's also similar to what I'm following you on Instagram and like social media. I see the beautiful pictures you're posting of living. And I think being able to hold both the horrible pain and the horrible trauma and remain human one to another, that's huge.
Well, look, I think that's what separates us from terrorists, right? Is that we believe in hope. We hold on to hope. It's our national anthem is hope. It's how we live. And, look, all we want is our children to have a better life and to live in peace, and for all of the region to live in peace. One of the other things I'd like to point out is while Michael was here and he did a basketball clinic, he actually conducted it with a Palestinian professional basketball player, a young woman who came from Bethlehem to work with mostly Jewish kids, but, a mixed group, to show them that there is still hope and chance for peace, and that not everyone is evil. And she believes in coexistence and trying to bring people together. And again, for me, it might be weird to say it's part of the healing, but it is part of the healing, knowing that we have, you use the word allies. One of the things that she says, I just don't understand why, others don't want to do what we're doing. And that gives me hope, because there are amazing people like Myrna who came to Jerusalem from Bethlehem and spent time with Michael to uplift children. And that's what we have to remain focused on.
So you were saying how sport, and you give great examples of how sport can unite and fight hate, all kind of hate. Living in the U.S., I also see the other side where some athletes actually use their platforms for disputing hate, right? There's a few basketball players and a few other athletes that speak up against Israel and against and kind of spew hate. Let me put it this way. We'll not name the names. How do you fight that? How do you leverage your voice? What advice do you have for people about how to combat hate and anti-Semitism by using sport?
Well, look, I think that to Michael's point about being curious is we have to educate people, right? Part of it is, first of all, unfortunately in the United States, I think this is becoming a global problem, is when you don't agree, the first reaction is to yell and scream at someone and to try to shut them down, right? That's not how it works in grade school, right? That's not how the teachers teach kids. It's about respect. You raise your hand, you have a conversation, you're supposed to read your books and write a piece, pro or con. And I think that when athletes say things that are factually incorrect, just like, a non-athlete does, we should try to have a civil conversation and educate them. Mira, I know several of the examples you're talking about, but I also know about an example of a player who said and did something online in a video game, was very remorseful, met with many rabbis, went to museums, educated himself, and saw. So I think that our response needs to also be a little bit open-minded and not just say, you're full of hate, you don't know what you're talking about, be quiet. It has to be, look, would you like to engage in a conversation with me about perhaps why you don't understand or you're misled or facts are not as you've seen? Yes, not everyone is like Michael and others that are willing to have that conversation, but we're not going to get anywhere if our initial responses are always to just slam the door on somebody and demonize them. Now, if we try to have conversations and they just continue, then they may be a lost cause. But let's try to educate people first and make some progress before we just slam the door on what could turn to be a potential ally.
And Michael, what are your thoughts? How do you respond when, like you were saying, you received so much, hate emails of being in Israel? Like, how do you educate in the face of adversity?
Well, a lot of times when it's certain stuff on social media, I get messages, I don't respond to it. I'm like, you kind of see how far of a person is. You can kind of tell if a person is willing to have a conversation, if a person is willing to just be like, you know what, no matter what you say, I'm going to be hateful, I'm going to be mean. And like Eric said, some people are just born and taught that way. And it's kind of hard to change their mind, but all I can do is honestly every day is just keep showing my truth, keep showing who I am, keep showing what I'm doing, what I'm seeing. Hey, no, it's not what you think it is. Whether you choose to believe me or not, I don't know how much I can convince you, but it's just probably not a way to go in life just to be hateful. Like it's not going to be a good ending, for you to be hateful. And for me, where I live right now, that's why I'm just kind of blessed that my kids get to see. I live in New Jersey, in the town I live in. It's Muslims here, it's Asians here, it's Jewish people. And in school, the school made a point to demonstrate celebrate all the holidays throughout the year and educate the kids. My daughter was just over a house where it was Asian kids and Muslim kids and Jewish kids all playing together. And for me, my wife would just sat there and smile like, this is powerful. So like, I think our world does have a chance, starting with our youth. Sometimes the adults, I don't know, like Eric said, we still hope we can educate them, but with the youth, there is still a chance because there are, ways like, kids don't care about, hey, okay, you're a Jewish, we're keeper, so what? I'm Asian, so what? Like, but, can we respect each other? Like Eric said, can we have a conversation? And for me, I used to probably get on a lot of Jewish people's nerves when I first started doing things in the community because I would ask a ton of questions. Like, hey, what does this mean? What is this? Why do you do that? I'm not questioning you. I just want to understand. So and I'm glad a lot of people didn't think I was questioning them. It was more so trying to educate myself. And I hope that people would try to educate themselves more on, hey, why do you do this? What's this celebration? Like I have an Asian neighbor who has every Friday night, they have a bunch of cards over. And I went and asked him, hey, what does this mean? What are you guys doing? Oh, he's Asian. I don't know. He explained about the dinner and the prayers they do. He said, hey, you should come over here and join. You and your wife comes, you don't have to go into it. Just partake in this watch. And that was powerful for me. You know what I'm saying? As an African-American Christian man, he didn't care about that. He just more so as a human being. So hopefully, like we said, there's a get to a point where people just want to be around other people and educate themselves and just say, oh, because you're Jewish, I want to be around you. Well, I hate that statement because there are good Jewish people, there are horrible Jewish people. There's good African Americans, there's horrible African Americans. So just because a person is one thing, you don't have to stereotype, say all you people are one way. That's the part that really bothers me. I hope people can educate themselves on that one.
Yeah, and it goes back to you as a human being, I think, because you're entering with curiosity. And obviously, people can learn to do this. I think this is who you probably were as a human. But I know that there's hope that people can learn to actually, listen twice with the 2 ears and then speak. And I'm thinking that Project Max definitely is a model because I saw on social media or on the news about the Irish women's basketball team who refused to shake the other team, who was Israelis, hands. And so, just that alone, there's so much hatred in just that moment. And what you are doing, which is sort of the intention of the podcast, is how do we dismantle this polarization? And through sport, it is so powerful. I mean, just all the friends and the colleagues and the people that you've talked about. I mean, it's so diverse. And you're all playing together. It's like playing together in the sandbox. And I think it's really powerful. I mean, it's a really powerful way to connect and to start with the youth, like you were saying.
I think the NBA has to be the most diverse league in the world when it comes to players. There was a time when I was growing up that most of the players, were American. And then, and I know before him, then once Dirk Nowitzki came in the league and others were drafted, it became a very, very diverse league with people from a ton of different countries and Christians and Jews and Muslims playing in the league. They have all figured out a way to share a locker room, right? And to be teammates. Look, we have the same thing going on in the Premier League. If you look at football/soccer in the UK, many players from Africa, many players from throughout Europe, from the United States now, and even we have an Israeli now playing for Leeds United. And so if the players can do it, isn't that a great example for all of the kids that play sports, under those divisions, that this could work? And yes, there are haters. We face the hate, but there's nothing, I think, more unifying that, let's say in the NBA, when they do the national anthem and all the players are standing there with their arms around each other, getting ready to do a game. And so I think that sports is a microcosm for what we really want the entire world to see and become.
Yeah, I agree with exactly what Eric said. I'm going to take it another step too. So you think about the fans in the stands, right? If you go to a soccer stadium or a football stadium, there's 100,000 people in there. Most of those people have different religions, different race, different political beliefs, but all of a sudden they're high-fiving, rooting for that team to win. And my thing is simple. Why can't we do that with the world? We can have our different religions, different political beliefs, different colors of skin, but we can root for each other to win. What's wrong with that? It's okay. But it's like we do that at a sporting event. You probably high-fiving a guy. You have no clue who he is, what his background is, but yet, hey, we want our team to win. So why can't we do that with our world? World a better place. Just, hey, let's make this world a good place of love and excitement, no matter what the background is. But
my God, I love that. It's like what comes to my mind is like the game of life, right? And we're all on the same team. Like we all are human beings that are playing and trying to survive and to heal and to be together. And the fact that you're bringing in the sport aspect, like I said before, I think it's brilliant. How can people get involved with Project Max? How can they become allies? For listeners who wants to do more, what can they do?
Well, first of all, please, go to projectmax.club and follow us at our website, our social media sites. Please follow us at Project Max. We post a lot of there about our trips, about our speaking engagements, but also sharing not necessarily what we're doing, but what's going on in the world of sports. We have an unfortunate example right now where the Palestinian Authority is trying to get Israel's national football team banned from FIFA. And that's just the opposite of what sports is supposed to be about. And so not only do we talk about all of these issues and speaking opportunities, but we also hope people will follow us on social media so that they can be aware of what's going on around the world and combating, hatred through sports. And I also think that, social media has allowed us to lose perspective in a lot of different ways, but it's interesting. People talk about, or Michael talked about the messages he gets on social media and the hate. And there are a lot of people that are afraid to speak up because they're afraid of the backlash and they're afraid of losing followers. And I try to remind people to put this in perspective that there was, and again, I go back to the civil rights era because I think it was a time of unity between African Americans and Jews. And there were 3 civil rights workers, that were slain: Andrew Goodman, Michael Schwerner, and James Chaney. Okay. 2 Jews were killed for standing up for what they believed was right during the civil rights movement. If you lose 1,000 followers, it's not the end of the world. And that if we don't stand up and speak out, what example are we setting and where do we expect the world is going to end up? Okay, so you lose some followers, but I'll tell you one interesting story from Eddie Curry's trip. Same thing as what happened with Michael. A ton of hate, didn't want to look at social media, didn't want to face the backlash. And at one point I said to him, Eddie, you have to look at this comment. And he logged back on and he's like, wow. And I'm like, no, the comment's pretty good. He goes, not just, he's like, Eric, I actually picked up more followers on this trip to Israel than I have since I left the NBA. And I think the point of that is for every loud, annoying person that messages people like Michael and Eddie, there are more people that appreciate and respect what they do, except they also don't want to face the criticism, so they do it silently, right? And so know that look, I mean, Michael Strip spurred this podcast, and your podcast is now going to show more people about the good work. So look, it's not just a saying. Love is going to win over hate. It's not a straight line to defeating hate. We're going to have our ups and we're going to have our downs, but it's incumbent upon us to do what sometimes requires us to get out of our comfort zone to make the world a better place. If it was easy, it would already be a much better place. We wouldn't have this hate, but we know that that's not the case.
That is beautiful. Both of you are just beautiful human beings. And I love everything you're doing. I know Neri and I both can be talking for another hour, but we ask 2 final questions to everyone. So for both of you, which I was actually thinking, Michael, earlier when you were talking about like looking into the eyes of the families who have, hostages, what is one thing that you both can do this week for your own healing?
For me, one couple things that I do for my healing. Obviously, like I said, I'm gonna give her a lot of help. So I know it sounds whatever, but like for me, saving a life, saving a person's mindset, that's always like something good for me. But also spending time with my family, that's good healing for me. And just trying to stay positive, keep fighting, but also to finding something for me, a hobby that, like Gary said, he's getting on the boat and taking a ride. I'm sure for him, that's a piece. I get jealous of him sometimes with the stuff he does on the water. I'm like, dude, I get jealous of his life, but it's all good. With things like we guys, like going out for a meal with your family, getting on a boat, taking a walk in the park, those things are part of healing too. It's just, also you can fight the good fight, but sometimes you do got to take care, like I said, got to take care of your mind too and your well-being. So
Beautiful.
Yeah, look, I'm going to keep living. We're going to have fun this weekend. We're going to welcome in Shabbat tomorrow. I don't know if you guys can see it, but every day, I wear my hostage tag and I remember, and no matter what I'm doing, people know that I'm doing it not only for myself and my mental health, but that I'm carrying them in my heart and in my mind. Yeah, we're going to post about the fun that we're going to have, but we're also going to post and make sure that everyone realizes that not everyone is as fortunate and blessed as we are, but that we're going to keep fighting until they have the same freedom to do and enjoy like we do.
I love that. And I can't wait to see pictures from the catamaran so I can be jealous as well. Wow, we talked about so many things today, and like just the highlights again of holding pain with hope and with living, giving for healing. Ugh, both of you, Susie, I'm stealing your sentence. I love your heartbeat. Okay, last question for both of you. What was it like to share your story with us today?
For me, I go first. For me, it was just one of those things, getting my truth out there, and people knowing the things that I'm doing, how I feel deep down, and hopefully whoever's watching, who's like on the fence, bordering, hopefully seeing this interview, the things that me and Eric have experienced and talked about, hopefully can change your mind and say, hey, you know what, I want to be a better human and do right by people. And that's that. That's why I'm just glad that this is able to get out there. And like I said, more and more people hear how other people feel. And,
well, for me, and I want to thank you, this is also part of my healing process. You're helping me heal. I think that, Michael could probably tell others better. And I think the two of you know this, is that the worst thing we can do is keep it bottled up inside and not discuss pain and trauma. So number one, thank you for the opportunity to get this out, to talk about it. I think we all need to talk, and whether it's, if you're not comfortable going to see a therapist or a psychiatrist, talk to a friend or a relative. Just don't keep it bottled up inside of you. So thank you for that. And I also want to thank you guys, because going back to Michael's theme about learning and inquiring, is hopefully that there'll be some listeners who say, I didn't know that. Or, and if, whether it's following Project Mac or Max or Michael's career, or just being open to learning something else, then that's huge. Then I think sometimes many of us get frustrated that we haven't changed a million minds in a day. And what I've come to learn is that it's really person by person. It's conversation by conversation. Perhaps it's a group of 6. But what both of you, Susie and Mary, allowed us to do today is hopefully reach someone that either didn't have their mind made up or didn't know a specific point, And we've helped make the world a better and hopefully more unified place because it's given them some education or at least put a question in their mind and they're willing to go ask the questions that Michael asked.
Thank you so much, both of you. This has been amazing. And I share the hope that people will start listening. And from listening, we'll start to grow, leading with curiosity so you can lead better. So thank you again for both of you.
Thank you for having us. Thank you for your work.
Thank you for having us. Thank you so much.
The most beautiful heartbeats. And yeah, I believe hope dismantles a lot. So thank you both for giving me hope today.
No, thank you. Thank you.
We'd like to thank our listeners, music composer Jonathan Bargiora, sound designer Ivan Reyes, podcast advisor Donna Fazari, and special thanks to the Academic Engagement Network for their generous support. Today's episode is co-produced by Professor Susie Hess and Dr. Miri Bar Halprin. Our Stories Matter, We Will Dance Again is brought to you by Trauma Informed LA. Check us out on Facebook and Instagram and at our website at traumainformedla.org. Please give us 5 stars on iTunes so more folks can have access and donate to traumainformedla.org so we can keep recording and healing through our storytelling episodes.